channels of communication. So I want to give us just a bit of structure for what to think about today. To do well with communication, speaking, communication, however you want to call it, to me, there's sort of 5 things I wanted to point out. First thing is to be authentic and relatable, not perfect. And I think this is, to me, is probably the most important point, is I find a lot of people would like to practice speaking. Like the example I gave Trev when we were kind of reviewing this beforehand was like, if I were to ask somebody, I'm not going to do this, but if I were to ask somebody in the room right now to give me a 60-second pitch on what you do or a project you're currently working on or a product you're currently building and just say, go, how well could you do on the spot like that? Steve's saying thumbs up. I almost was going to put you on the spot, Steve, but I won't.
What I do for a living, I teach people to do second pitches.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the point of the example is that most people become deer in the headlights. They're frozen. They can't do it. Even if there was nobody here and this Zoom meeting ended and I asked you to pick up your phone and shoot a video, doing a selfie video and look into it, a lot of people would really struggle with what to say. And I think what blocks them from the conversations I've had with people is they don't want to say it wrong. They don't want to sound dumb. They don't sound polished. They say and ah. They don't like the sound of their voice, all these different things. But that's not the point. The point is to just be authentic and relatable. And the only way you can do that is by begin speaking. As soon as you overthink, it's like anything, right? If you overthink your golf shot, you're probably going to miss it. But if you kind of just allow the muscle memory to take shape, you usually do a little bit better, right? So taking a lot of that worry about being perfect, I think to me is huge. And that's the one thing I would like to share with everyone here after thousands of different videos and different presentations I've created. This is sort of the one anchor I always go back to is like, who cares if I mess up? Who cares if I say a word funny? Trevor and I had I don't know if you remember this, Trev, where I said, this is going to be a successful relationship for the both of us instead of both of us. And Trev was absolutely killing himself laughing. Like he had tears pouring down his face. And I left it. I'm like, at first I was like, let's re-record it. I'm like, no, we're leaving it. And that's the thing is like, it doesn't need to be perfect and polished. You just got to do it. You just got to let it roll. And to me, that works better. Then the people watching your video realize that you're a real person and they feel like they can connect with you a little bit better. Next one is intentionally displaying enthusiasm. I don't have any examples right now. Later on, if anybody's super interested, I'll find them. But if you watch my early demo videos, when I first started selling PLR to what they sound like now, I've completely transformed. I'm literally a different person. Oh, Trev, go ahead.
I can give you an example. Sorry. I can give you an example. It's right there. It's the inflection in which you talk, right? Like if Justin came into these meetings and was like, hey, Justin Popovic, we're in session. Trev, what session are we in?
Yeah.
And I came in with a 73. We wouldn't have attendance. It's just, you have to sound more excited for your product than anybody in the world, or else how are people going to get excited for what you're selling?
Absolutely.
Hey, Trevor, I think you just need to practice impersonating Justin more.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not excited about it, no one else is either.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm going to get into this again in a few minutes, but this idea of intentionally displaying enthusiasm to me is actually way more important for us as online business owners than for maybe some of Steve's clients that are traditional businesses that may speak in front of a room of people. Because I find that if you're in front of a room of people, and if they're mostly supportive, you can kind of look at their body language, you can read their energy, and your energy will naturally kind of raise because you've got people in front of you. Whereas right now, like I can see Steve in the top right corner at the moment, but for the most part, I can't see people watching me. So I have to practice speaking with a much higher level of energy than I would if Steve was just sitting here in my office with me and we were just chatting. I'm not going to talk to Steve like I am right now if he's just here and we're having a coffee, right? Steve.
Yeah, I was just actually going to argue a point.
Please.
Because you say you've been online, you kind of have to be more enthusiastic and more outgoing. It's actually the opposite. I found that in person, there are too many distractions, which means if you're not enthusiastic, you're not paying attention, then you've got to find a way to do that, and you've got to be outgoing to be able to do that. Online, we're here on a Zoom call watching you. We're kind of locked into seeing you because that's how Zoom's set up. In a room full of 30 or 40 people, where there's all sorts of different things going on, if you want to attract the whole room, or if you're speaking to the whole room, you've got to really be outgoing to engage them.
Gotcha.
So I think there's a little bit of difference, and
Yeah,
you want people to be engaged in what you're saying. So you have to come up with something that makes them engage. You can't just say the same thing over and over again.
100% agree. Just to give you a bit of a distinction of where I was going with it, I probably should have explained it better, is your internal state as a speaker. So for me, at least, if I'm in a room full of people, it will be easier for me to naturally display enthusiasm versus when I'm just looking into a computer screen and talking into a mic. I've trained myself away from it now, but in the past, it was very easy to talk like I would talk to you if you were in the room with me. So that's where I was going with it. But I get what you're saying now as well. So we kind of both hit it from two different angles. I think that's awesome. The next one is something that you literally just can't fake. You have to know your topic. Now, and I'm talking specifically about business presentations, business skills. If you're just chatting with somebody, we're going to get into that as well. But I remember when I left the corporate world and I started my business, I was doing motivational speaking and I was doing coaching. And the thing is, I didn't know my topic all that well. I was brand new to it. So it didn't matter how much I practiced that talk. I knew within my heart that I wasn't really qualified to be talking about this yet. So no matter how many times I practiced those slides or saying what I wanted to say, I did not feel comfortable. And the only way to overcome it is to immerse in your topic and continually get better at it. It's another Covey, right? Isn't there like a sharpen the saw kind of thing with Covey, or one of those? There's something with Covey where you constantly improve. I don't know what it's called. And that's something that I think a lot of people forget. They just want to speak really eloquently, but you have to know your topic. So what are you doing every day to develop skills on the topic that you share with the world? The next one comes back to what Trev was saying, which is on the listening side, genuinely being interested and curious. Again, communication goes both ways. You speak, you listen. And I don't know if you can really practice this. I think you can, but to a degree, you have to just genuinely be interested in the person you're talking to. I think maybe by active listening, engaged listening. I just got back a couple weeks, or when Steve was doing the last session, the reason I wasn't there was I was at my son's basketball camp. He's doing like a high-level basketball training program. And the coach there, he coaches Division I in the US. And he was teaching the kids, one of the most important things you can do as a player is to be an engaged listener. Show the coach, stand close to the coach, look at him in the eye, show with your body, your eyes, and your everything, your whole being, that you are listening. And that will naturally make it easier for you to become interested and curious. And one thing that I did was very early on in my dealings with people, either in meetings like this or especially one-on-one, is I got good at asking questions. I just keep asking people questions. I can have a meeting with somebody and have them talk the entire 2 hours if we sat down for coffee, because I just never run out of questions to ask, because I've practiced being curious and interested in other people's lives, not just business, not just their family or what they do, anything that comes up. As they're giving me an answer, it'll trigger a new idea. I think of another question I can answer or ask them. And that's a huge part of communication. The one thing I wanted to throw in here as well, it drives me nuts because I hear all these different speakers. I study a lot of speaking on YouTube, and so many people just throw out that 93% of communication is nonverbal. And I was like, there's no way that's true. And I looked it up and it is a myth. And I was like, yes. And I remember the study by Albert Mehrabian, and it's the 7-38-55 rule. To me, is way more accurate. I don't know if anybody else has heard of this, but 7%. So elements of person communication, 7% spoken, 38% voice and tone, and 55% body language. Except if you're an online business owner and you don't have a video cam or a webcam running and you're only displaying your slides, then the 55% goes out the window and it's all spoken and tonality, right? So body language, absolutely important, but I think it's overblown in a lot of the times. The enthusiasm we were talking about earlier, the inflections of your voice, having a genuine interest in what you're talking about is super important for us as online business owners. So